This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Twitter.
This is Mike White. Oh, something just happened with me. It spoke back to me. Sorry.
It's the longest Twitter handle ever.
Oh wow.
This is Mike White. You can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Obsessive Viewer Podcast. We're a weekly movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. If this is your first time listening, you can go and find back episodes at ovpodcast.com. I'm Matt Hurt, and I'm joined with Mike and Tiny, as always. Hey, guys.
Hello.
And
Hello. And if it's not your first episode, thanks for coming back.
Yes, thank you. And we're joined today in studio by our friend Robert Fekkes. Hi, Fekkes.
Hello, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
So what the feck is he doing here? That was obvious.
I'm
That was
30 years
obvious.
old, and that's the first time anyone's ever tried to make that with my last name. Congratulations, sir.
That is awesome.
You're letting this go far enough to make me believe you.
Oh, that's great. If you recognize his voice, you may remember him from episode 60. One of our what was that? PopCon episodes.
Yeah.
He was at the 1 hour, 16 minute, 57 second mark.
Oh, wow. That is specific.
Oh, I timestamped the hell out of
And
the
Matt
show.
just memorized it.
I do,
because-
yeah. I play it on a loop all the time. Whenever you send me a Snapchat, I have that queued up and I play it as I
would
as
love
I
to
look
believe
at
that.
So today we're talking about Interstellar, but before we do, I want to bring up a couple things. One, couple things that are kind of related to the kind of sci-fi topic at hand. First of all, there's going to be a new Diamond Lux edition of Gravity that has a scoreless Silence in Space version of the film. That's going to release in February. And we talked about Gravity quite a bit last year, especially in our space episodes, episode 25 of the podcast. What do you guys think about there being not a score in it and have it just be silence?
I think it's appropriate, given space. But for me, and me and Matt have gone back and forth on this for a while, nothing can make me enjoy that movie. It's a good idea. I like what they're doing with that scoreless set, but yeah, it's just not going to make me go back to it.
Wow, I forgot that you didn't like it.
That's weird.
I'm so upset with the love that, and my hatred for it doesn't come from anything having to do with performances or visuals. It's purely physics and story.
Okay.
And story.
We talked a lot about the cliffhanger scene.
Cliffhanger is correct in naming it that. I was so angry in the theater when I saw that. I wanted to pick something up and throw it.
Wow. Nice.
Okay.
Well, that'll be released in February. I'm kind of curious how it'll play because I rewatched the movie today just as preparation for our Interstellar review. And I'm kind of because the score is amazing. I love the score of that movie, so I'm kind of curious how it would play.
And space movies without music are weird. I just think that seems like a lot of space movies have amazing
It just seems
music.
indulgent.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't think it's indulgent. I think it's appropriate for the setting. Given, it's not everything's going to be Star Wars. We're here laser blast going through a vacuum of space. I like the idea. It gives kind of credence to the science behind the movie. But
Yeah. I could go with so many scenes of that movie are they play very well because of the absence of sound. When she's working to get the thing dislodged from the debris. And you see behind her just the debris is just crashing into everything.
Right.
And there's destruction right behind her. For a brief second, there's no sound or anything. So I'm kind of curious how it'll play. But the other two things I wanted to bring up is I saw a couple trailers that I want to talk about really quickly. One is Ex Machina, I think that's the name of it, the Alex Garland movie.
Nice.
Written and directed by him. He wrote 28 Days Later and Sunshine, two of my favorite movies. And it looks really cool. It looks like kind of a mind of a movie. It's rated R too. It has something to do with some guy is put forth as a test for like an artificial intelligence kind of thing. I'm very vague about it, and I'm glad because I didn't get that much of the plot from the trailer, but and I want to keep it that way. It releases in like April, and I kind of want to keep completely down, like not know much about it. But I'm looking forward to it because I mean I love Alex Garland, his writing, the movies he's written. So
he's great.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Hopefully,
I have not seen Sunshine.
But
man. It's one of them that's been on my
Let him have it, Matt.
It's been on my back burner, but no, I've not seen Sunshine.
Okay. I'll tailor my critique of Interstellar accordingly.
Okay.
No, it's really good.
Well, I haven't seen Interstellar yet. Should I watch that?
God damn it. And the last bit of news I want to bring up before we get to the topic is the trailer released for Chappie. Have you guys seen that?
Yes.
No.
No?
I haven't seen that yet.
Really?
My first thought, and it looks good, but my first thought of that was Johnny Five Alive.
Oh, yeah.
Short Circuit. But that doesn't take anything away from the trailer. I still think it looks very good. And I really hope that director's third movie. I expected way too much out of Elysium, and I was let down. It wasn't a bad movie. It's just it wasn't District 9.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to Chappie. But
yeah.
Yes.
It looks pretty cool.
This kind of goes against everything we're doing on this podcast, but I'm kind of over teasers. I'm just tired of just being inundated with all the stuff that we're supposed to know going in. And I did a pretty good job of avoiding everything Interstellar, and I'm so glad that I did. And I've consistently had better movie experiences where I don't look at any of the teasers, which is funny. Kind of leads into our conversation today. Right. About how excited you got about the teaser for Interstellar.
Yeah, which we talked about in it was movies, our movie Christmas movies episode last year. And I actually put the teaser at the end of that episode. But we talked about it in the potpourri section, and I mean, I get it. Yeah, I'm over it too. And like anytime I saw trailers for Interstellar, like that was the only trailer like I saw in full of Interstellar was the teaser trailer. But I would close my eyes in the theater to not see anything of it.
Yep.
Put your fingers in your ear and say la 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 too.
So and like I got pissed off because I was like, oh crap! Now I know that someone sees something and says mountains and they say that it's waves or something. I'm like, oh, that's whatever. But yeah, just because I heard that. But yeah, our topic today is Interstellar. We've all seen it. I've seen it twice. I have a bunch of notes for it, and I'll bring us into it by saying that I waited 7 years for this movie to get made because when I started working as a security guard, I worked nights and I was really bored and I would browse IMDb. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I found Interstellar's page, which at the time it was attached to Steven Spielberg. And so I would check back on it periodically. I'd see the message boards for it saying like, oh, this could be Spielberg's 2001. And I got really excited about it and everything. And then, that's fine. And then when Inception came out, I was like, oh my god, that zero gravity fight scene in the hallway of the hotel,
brilliant.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, he needs to make a space movie, and Jonathan Nolan is attached to Interstellar. Maybe Spielberg gets a little busy. Maybe it goes to Nolan, and that's what happened. And I'm like, all right, awesome. So I was really looking forward to it, and I didn't connect to it the way that I wanted to or expected to. Like I went.
You couldn't possibly have.
Yeah. 7 years of anticipation.
You couldn't possibly.
But that's the thing. I didn't have it built up quite that much because I was.
Lie. That's
incorrect.
100% lie, whether you think it or not.
I have
created Christmas for yourself.
I have a story to refute that. We were walking out of The Dark Knight Rises, which I loved, and me and Matt and Tiny and Ray's brother, we all went to go see the midnight showing of that. Ray's brother almost got into a fight with the guy over seats, Matt's brother almost got into a fight over seats with the guy. But neither here nor there. But walking out of that movie, I remember Matt specifically saying that Christopher Nolan now needs to do a space opera movie, and so even before before it was announced.
I loved you before you were born, says Matt.
Okay. Okay, yes.
I'm sure you think you did the best job possible not setting yourself up. But the first thing you said, Matt, was I've been waiting 7 years for this movie.
I have been. And I will clarify and say that yes, I did have high expectations for this, but when I was in line at the theater, I wasn't saying like, oh, I'm going to have like a religious experience watching this movie. I'm like, I'm excited to see this movie.
You may not have said that, but your Facebook posts implied that.
Either way, I've seen it twice now, and I still couldn't really connect to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our feelings toward the movie, and then eventually we'll get into more spoiler-specific discussions about it. So we'll eventually spoil the movie, but right now I just want to give kind of a broad idea about what we felt about it. And basically I'll just say I was not as enthralled by it as I wanted to be, and I was left a little disappointed. And despite my expectations for it, I don't think it was a fault of me having too many expectations for it. And I have like little bits and pieces that I kind of feel like I have honest, like I have grounded reasons for not connecting to it the way that I expected to. So, Tiny, what do you think of it?
I loved it a lot. It's currently my favorite movie of the year, my top movie of the year. I was beyond inspired by it. I thought it was just awe-inspiring. I love the technical aspects of it. The fact a lot of people are comparing it to Gravity. Understandably so. They're both space epics, but the technical aspects of both the movies are just massively different. And I think you can tell that by watching them, because Gravity was 90% CGI. I don't know about 90, but like probably 60-70% CGI.
I think 90 was probably more accurate.
Maybe 93.
Yeah. Anyways, Interstellar was like 10% CGI.
Right.
So that's a huge difference there. That they went for that kind of reality. So I loved it. I was blown away. I have high expectations for any Nolan movie, because I think he kind of welcomes that himself. Chris, my buddy Chris.
I call him Knowles.
I've referred to him as Christ Nolan. So, yeah.
Yikes.
But you didn't have high expectations for the movie. Anyway. Overly high expectations for the movie. Anyway. So I think he kind of welcomes that, and so I don't think it's irrational to have those kind of expectations, but it met my expectations, definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
Mike, what did you think of it?
I really, really liked it a lot. I kind of come down in the middle of the two of you, but I also didn't have the same expectations. I think we give a little too much credit for Chris Nolan on this podcast. And I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit, because if we think about some of the last three movies he's involved with, The Dark Knight Rises, which wasn't perfect, Man of Steel, which is an abomination.
Well,
he produced Man of Steel.
Yeah, but he was also a creative consultant. I think the line of what involvement he had is not clear. But
I have to believe a lot of that, though, is promotion for the movie. Like, look who also was involved in this movie, the creator of the Dark Knight.
You're right. But then also there's this movie, and so I don't think he's Christ Nolan. And I think this was a good example of the fact that he's not Christ Nolan. I think he did a lot of great things in the movie. Visually, I don't think it comes close to Gravity. And I made a point last year to talk about the visuals in Gravity and how amazing they were, and how I predicted that Cuarón would win Best Director, and he did, and I was pleased about that.
That was obvious, and I believe he deserved that. But.
Yeah, and I don't think this will, and I don't think it should. A lot of Nolan's movies, he does a lot of really, really cool things visually, but almost everything he does is in service to a cool story. And like Fekkes, your complaint about Gravity was the story lacked. Well, of course it did, but that was a movie about visuals, and that's why it didn't win Best Picture.
No, it wasn't the lack of story. It was the choices for some of the characters in the story.
Gotcha.
I'll elaborate, but
this is about story. Okay, so I didn't go in thinking that I was gonna see the most visually stunning movie I've ever seen. It was fun to look at, but I don't think it was amazing to look at. It's weird because I sound like I'm coming off negatively about it, but after I watched the movie, I would say I was blown away, and everybody I saw the movie with, I was also blown away. So we liked it a lot. It's definitely not my movie of the year, but I think I'm going to come down between the two of you, Matt and Tiny.
Okay. To be clear, when I say Christ Nolan, I'm speaking facetiously. I'm talking about him as a filmmaker. I love his movies, but I don't view him as a deity. I noticed the complaints in the movies. I mean, The Dark Knight Rises, for example, the idea that Bane would stay on a plane with a passed out Bruce Wayne, fly him across the world to this prison, and then just to explain to him, I'm going to make you watch Gotham burn.
Do it in the Bane voice. Do it in the Bane voice. Oh, we're going to make Gotham burn.
I can't do voices. So, Fekkes, what did you think of Interstellar?
I absolutely love this film. To me, it's not the best movie I've seen this year. It's probably the second best. Nightcrawler, to me, blew me away. But Interstellar just hit me on so many levels. Emotionally, to me, the characters, I connected with them so much. And I hate to say it, but this is only the second movie I've ever cried at. And I did cry. Homeward Bound being the first one.
That's like 20 years in between movies, by the way.
Who said I
you didn't cry?
I saw it last year.
Oh.
No.
I thought you meant in theaters.
Yeah. No, but Interstellar, and I agree, it's not a perfect film. There are very few perfect films in this world. And I kind of made the same reference on my Facebook page. I compare it to a piece of art, a painting. It's not perfect, but there's so many things in it that I appreciate, and it moves me on that level. And the story was one of them. And I agree, the visuals are not on par with Gravity, but they're not supposed to be. The concepts, the character development, the science, that to me was the focus of this film, and he nails it for me. Now there's all kinds of shades from other directors in the film. There's with the epic shots in space, which I thought were beautiful. It was very Kubrick, very 2001. Character interactions, very Spielberg, and he's had a hand in the movie anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's obvious he was there. But to me, it all just came together just to make it a wonderful film, and I couldn't have been more blown away by it. And it's funny because it almost lost me at the beginning. And not to get too spoilerific on it, but with the how he ends up finding the secret NASA base, it almost lost me right there because until it came full circle,
right?
And I was on board there, but I love this film, and I even hate comparing it to Gravity, but I know the reasons for comparing it to Gravity,
right? And if I could speak about, first of all, the whole secret NASA thing. While I was watching it, I was like, this is like the movie version of Barney's the SNASA play in How I Met Your Mother. So anyway,
not a watcher of that show, but
it's good.
Yeah. Anyway,
don't bother.
That's a topic for another podcast, actually. Anyway, yeah, to talk about the visual effects, first of all, and I wrote a review on the website, and I said that it doesn't achieve visually anything that overpasses Gravity's visual effects, and I stand by that. Gravity's just an amazing
state of the art.
Well, yeah. I mean that's obvious, but that was Gravity's purpose as well. It was. They created so many filmmaking techniques just for Gravity that if it didn't win, choreography Oscars and directing Oscars, it would have been a shame. But that's not the focus of Interstellar.
Right.
He's using things that have been done before. He did some innovative things as well. They did very practical effects. They used when they're doing some of the scenes in the spaceship, they were showing film from that they'd already shot from space, so it gives the actor something to look at besides a green screen. And I'm sure everyone saw that promo in the movie theater, but
and for a second I thought like, wait, did they not use any green screen in the movie? And then I immediately, like when I saw it, I was like, oh wait, yeah, they did. But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting technique too, because I mean, you could see the actors play off it so much better.
Absolutely.
But what I'm fully prepared to admit that I have egg on my face, because the movie is visually stunning, and it's not. I stand by my statement that it's not Gravity level, but he does do some incredible stuff visually. Like it's like talking about the science of it. It's like he's depicting hard science, like showing like wormhole, like traveling through wormholes, and the black hole imagery and stuff is just jaw-droppingly just stunning. And that's stuff that's all theoretical, and that's not something that you've really ever seen.
That's something I really appreciated about the movie too. It didn't treat the audience like idiots. There was some hard to explain and hard to understand science in the film, but it didn't go out of its way to treat me like an idiot. Like,
right.
I'm not an expert on the theory of relativity, but I have a basis knowledge of how it might be worked in real life. So with scenes or when they go down to the planet that's close to the black hole, I really appreciate that they didn't spend a half-hour dialogue explaining to me why the time has been pushed forward so much. Yeah. So if you don't know much about science, you might be a little confused, but it doesn't treat the viewer like an idiot. So, you know, it's not Armageddon.
I would say at times they do. I think the whole diagram where he shows what a wormhole does with the piece of paper, that was for us.
Okay.
Well, Matthew McConaughey knows that information.
That's all right. Touche on that. You're right. It wasn't Sam Neill explaining it to a group of people in Event Horizon. The exact same explanation was given in that.
That's right.
But no, you're right. I'll give you that.
That's also one of my problems I had with it. Not that specifically, but it's like they wait until right before they go through the wormhole to explain like what a wormhole is and all that. And that's a fault, I think, in the script, in that there is no... How can I explain this? The first 20 minutes of the movie is all Earth stuff, establishing stuff with him and his daughter. That's fine. That's okay. But then it jumps right to, like, they find secret NASA, and then he's going into space right now, and it's like,
well, it was a mission that they were already planning, that it was gonna happen.
Yeah, but I kind of
but it's still like they went tomorrow.
Yeah, and it was like
that's excessively quick.
It's a 3-hour movie. I mean,
and exactly, it's a 3-hour movie, and they couldn't fit in. I feel like, honestly, my big problem with the movie is it's cluttered with stuff. And I feel like they couldn't, like, he could have included like a scene that showed them like at least interacting with one another pre-mission. And without that, there is no, like, okay, Wes Bentley's character and the guy that plays Romilly, they're the other two people on the mission. I know nothing about them. I know that Romilly doesn't like flying or needs a lot of Dramamine. And Wes Bentley's character, I'm like, I know literally nothing about him. I got more character development out of the crazy person after in The Dark Knight that was wearing Rachel Dawes' name tag after the at the funeral.
Right.
I got more character development for him than I did for one of the 4 people on the mission to save humanity in Interstellar.
That is a fault.
And you know what? The thing is, could we use another 20 minutes? Because I think you can cut 20 minutes out of this movie.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Is it's funny you said your big problem with it was that it was cluttered, but then you said there's not enough character development. It's kind of silly.
It's cluttered with stuff that isn't character development.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, what would you have to what good parts of the film would you have to sacrifice in order to develop Wes Bentley's character and the other character?
I think you can drop the sun entirely at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, you really can,
because McConaughey does. Really,
he does forget that he has another
Casey
job.
Affleck at the end was no revelation. Like, I was like, why this character? You can completely drop Topher Grace.
You basically did.
I don't see that's silly to me, because I think people are focusing on that just because it's Topher Grace.
I agree 100% with
It's
that.
like he's a character that was there for his daughter to bounce things off of. Like, that character needs to be there. People are just focused on the fact that it's Topher Grace.
Right. If that were a completely different actor, a no-name actor, I don't think it would have been as near as big of an issue.
Right.
And it shouldn't be, just because you don't. Maybe Topher Grace really wanted to work with Christopher Nolan. This was his chance. I don't have a problem with picking a known actor for a small role.
Right. He had like 10 or 15 lines. I mean, if you remove him, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't.
Yeah, it does. He was made to be. Can we go into spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So just so you guys know, we're going to start spoiling the movie. If you want to stick around for Potpourri, check the show notes, and you can go to, if we do Potpourri, I don't know, we might run out of time. But anyway, spoilers on. Topher Grace's character is the whole end point, and I don't know if we should like jump around or anything like that, but the whole point where there's this really just where's my notes on it? There's this really basically Topher Grace's character and Casey Affleck. Like, there's a conflict between Murph and Tom created specifically to make tension for her big, like, the ghost is my dad reveal. And it's just,
well, that, and Nolan wanted a linear two stories happening at once kind of thing.
In that
it's like he
up.
made the decision to do that and then figured out what he wanted to say.
Yeah, and it comes across as clunky. Like, there's a scene where Matthew McConaughey discovers that Matt Damon is like evil or whatever, or is out to get, or is like
evil.
He's dangerous. He's a danger. He when he realizes that he's a danger. And it cuts right from that scene straight to Topher Grace, like checking the kid's breathing, and I'm like, I kind of laughed a little bit the second time I saw it, because I was like, that's just, it's so crooked. It's jagged. It's like you're cutting between these two things. It's pretty compelling what's going on the ice planet, but then you're going to this whole manufactured thing where, like, why doesn't Casey Affleck want to have his family leave there? There's not really much explanation. They explain that his first son died, and then they have a doctor there telling him, like, yeah, you guys need to leave here right now because these guys aren't in good health. And then he's like, we're not leaving, we're staying right here. Like, how much of a f***ing ass is Casey Affleck if he's just gonna let his family die just to stay on the farm?
How much of his behavior, though, is somewhat paralleled with Matt Damon's? You're talking about Casey Affleck is a person that's almost shut off from the rest of the world, trying to work and save his father's creation, the farm. And you're talking about Matt Damon, who's shut off from everything, trying to work and save humanity. So there's going to be some sort of dementia involved with both these characters, even at some sort of, even if it's a minimal amount. But I kind of like the parallels between the two. Both of them are in imminent danger from a person who at some point had good intentions, but had also been clouded with his isolation. So I don't necessarily consider it jagged. There needed to be some sort of tension for the coming Jessica Chastain scene in the room. So there had to be a reason why she couldn't stay there forever. Right. But I kind of like the two characters, meaning well, but get lost along the way.
And I like the idea, and I loved the idea in this movie that despite the distances of this mission, it was still Christopher Nolan kept the story tethered to Earth, because he showed us what was going on back on Earth, and because a huge part of the success of the mission depended on what happens on Earth. So that's why I really was not bothered by them cutting back and forth between Earth and the mission. That really didn't bother me at all.
I think it came in too late.
I disagree. I feel
it
like
does come like an hour and a half into the movie.
Yeah, something like that.
But you have to have that reminding of what's at stake with this mission. It's humanity. Right. So it's all these relationships that could no longer be should this mission fail. So there should be some tension, and there needs to be a constant reminder that, in fact, there is a whole world that depends upon this. You can't disconnect yourself from Earth.
Plus 23 years had passed. So
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
it makes sense.
Okay, sure. One thing that I want to bring up, this is not really a I noticed this the second time I saw it. I don't really. This isn't like a big like. This is proof that Nolan's movie is. This is why I didn't like it. This is just a minor nitpick that I want to get your guys' reaction on. So, the movie kind of made me kind of realize the way that Nolan names characters a little bit. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Oh God, man.
Yeah.
Right, the enemy of man is man.
Yeah, it's just like in Inception when Cobb's wife's name is Mal. As a malevolent
that's
character.
bad
Yeah.
in Spanish.
And then I mean Following and Inception both have a character named Cobb, and then here we have Coop. It's like it's kind of but
I'm kind of ashamed that I've never noticed this.
Oh, I started noticing this after the first viewing of Interstellar, but this is the one that I noticed at during my second viewing. I was like, okay, so after the 23 years pass, which we'll get to that scene because that's I will say that's an incredible scene where he's seeing the video stuff, but Casey Affleck's like, oh yeah, here's your grandson. We wanted to name him Coop, but you know she didn't want me to or whatever. And then we find out that kid dies, and then he did name his other kid Cooper. So all I'm thinking is, so his name is Cooper.
That you know what? I have a legitimate real life experience of that.
Really?
There is a coworker of mine who's it's not exactly the same, but her last name was Keeler before she got married. Now she's married and it's Remke, but she named her daughter Keeler. So it's not completely.
My father-in-law's name is Frederick.
See,
Really?
Boom.
Really?
Man, don't
Wow.
you do silly.
It happens from time to time.
See, I don't know. It just seems so weird to me. It felt like, I mean,
Walk
I don't
outside
know.
into the world, Matt. You'll discover things.
I don't know. It kind of bothered me, but it was, like I said, it's a minor nitpick. Because the whole time I'm thinking like, okay, we don't know McConaughey's name. Like I'm like under the impression like, okay, well maybe his name's Coop. Maybe that's just his name is Cooper or something.
Coop Cooperston.
Yeah, or something. And then like I noticed the name tag says Cooper, so it's like
Coop,
Cooper.
what's a vagina?
And then, and then he wakes up on Cooper Station. I'm like, okay, well that is definitely his last name. And then I was like, wait, his grandson's name is Cooper. But yeah, so like I said, that's a minor nitpick.
It's also his daughter's last name though too.
Yeah, Then they made a big like, oh yeah, it's actually your daughter. And I'm like, okay, well, like I was like trying to think like maybe his first name's Coop or something, but then they like made sure like yes, that's not the first
Maybe he
name.
just really loved chicken coops. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Maybe he's supposed to be Coo.
anyway,
You know what this movie did? This movie made me realize something about how I feel about reading reviews and listening to reviews. And I don't mean to indict us. Please continue listening, listeners, and please keep listening.
This
to
whole
what we
thing
talk
is
about.
pointless.
But when the movie was over, I was just thrilled and delighted by what I had just seen. And then when I read some reviews and I started to think about some of the plot holes and some of the wormholes, there were things I started to dislike, and that felt like a problem to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, because I just enjoyed the movie so much, and I wondered why I couldn't leave it at that. So, just to switch it up, I kind of want to talk about something I liked so very, very much. One of the things that Nolan doesn't do well is human emotion, and that humans have emotions. But the scene where they come off the water planet and 23 years had passed is one of my favorite Nolan scenes ever.
mine too. I have it in my notes. The 23 years of video messages is one of the most poignant and moving scenes Nolan has ever directed.
Aha! There we go. We agree.
And it's actually the Slash Filmcast had a really good take on it. One of the guys on there mentioned that it's basically the depiction of it is basically what humans have been doing for forever. Like it's basically he's. When a relative dies or something, it's, you know, people pray and all that, and they imagine that their relatives looking down on them and stuff. And this is literally like that is scenario played out in a logical way that makes sense, and it's a very moving scene. It's really well done. I mean, it's just seeing like I teared up quite a bit when I saw that in the second viewing. So yeah, what'd you guys think?
Yeah, it was touching.
I agree. 100% agree.
Yeah. Can't really add to that much.
We agree. You love the movie.
It's the best movie of the year.
Besides Dumb and Dumber 2, right?
I don't have high hopes for that movie.
You had hopes?
Yeah. Okay, so going back to Tom, to his son, and how Fekkes, you made a good point. That yes, the parallel between him and Man and being like an excuse for Jessica Chastain to have, a reason to not have to be there to work it out. But when Coop wakes up at Cooper Station, there's no reference to Tom whatsoever. It's like they could have easily spent like 4 or 5 seconds, maybe a little longer, maybe 10 seconds of screen time with someone saying like, yeah, your son died years ago, and just have like a reaction like, okay, like that. But there's no reference.
I agree. There perhaps should have been a reference, but you also have to think, what's the timeline on that? How long has it been since that scene? And was it 40, 50 years?
Something like that.
I mean, that's a long time. Would you expect the person to who come to contact with Coop, that would be the first thing that he's going to talk about? But no, it's going to be the historical figure of his daughter. It's like, this is Coop Station, named after your daughter made this ridiculous discovery. She's still alive. Oh my God. Yeah, he probably should have wondered about Tom.
We'll have like someone on the station be like, okay, well, this guy has been traveling through space and time and all that stuff. This is pretty instantaneous for him, so maybe we'll just mention that his prick son died of old age.
I might have liked, because I really enjoyed at the very beginning when they're doing the interviews with the people that maybe have Tom be one of the interviewees.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what happens to Tom afterwards. Maybe he comes to his senses at some point and realizes,
Oh, you mean the When Harry Met Sally montage?
Yeah.
I wasn't crazy about that.
Oh, you weren't?
I wasn't.
Really?
I kind of like how I don't know if I even liked how it tied together at the end. I thought it was kind of like, it kind of, it felt like it was establishing the state of the planet of which they're saving. But it could have been.
They're not saving the planet.
Well, they're
saving humanity.
The conditions that are causing them to have to save humanity. But yeah, and I was just like, they could have just said, like, they showed it pretty well. It kind of seemed a little redundant.
That is crazy. I'm sorry. That is a crazy opinion. Because basically what they were doing was documenting what happened on Earth. The way we document stuff, we write down stuff in books for the future, essentially. We make documentaries. That's what they were doing. They were documenting why they left Earth for future generations.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that. I understand. I don't see why we needed to see it, at least early in the movie.
It's a very human and practical approach to it. I mean, you take a completely different type of filmmaking, but you take something like Band of Brothers. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite portions of those episodes are the parts where we hear from the people that were involved in it.
Me too.
That's exactly what I thought of, too.
Yeah, so I think it's very fitting. You're talking about the most major event in human history. I want to hear what the normal person was going through.
But did we need to see it in the beginning of the movie, though? Because then that just kind of...
Yes, I think an established...
Really?
Yes,
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Really?
Not only does it establish the importance of the history of what happened, but it also wrongfully establishes him as a farmer early on, which is to say... one of the themes of the movies is that there is more to humanity and there's more to humans, and they kind of laugh at the end of the movie. He's like, you told him I liked farming, and she kind of laughs about it. So they established early on that he's a farmer, and then throughout the movie we're like, oh, he's definitely not just a farmer.
Well, we know that he's not just a farmer, even early.
But it's like being on the inside of an inside joke.
Kind of. Yeah.
You're talking about people that don't have a personal interaction with this historical figure, but it's fun to see what has been taught and said about him over the decades.
I don't have a problem with the kind of museum kind of thing of his farmhouse at the end. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem
You
with
just
them
don't like the
showing
inclusion of the scene in the movie.
in the beginning of the movie. I don't
placement.
like
You don't like its placement in the
I don't
beginning.
because that just makes me think like, oh, okay, they're recounting what happened. So yeah, and I mean, this isn't a thought that I had, but it just kind of just feels like, okay, yeah, well, I mean, humanity wins. Like it's all that.
I'm not necessarily sure it's saying that at the beginning that humanity wins, because my first thought about it was, so what? They save Earth then?
Yeah.
And so I was relieved at the end to find out it was a little bit more complex than them saving Earth.
Right.
So it kind of sets up a preconception of what happens at the end, but it was what happens at the end, to me at least, was a surprise given what I saw at the beginning. So
Okay. Yeah, I
couldn't disagree with you more on this.
I still just wasn't crazy about it. As it having it in the beginning of the movie, but when the deathbed scene, or was it her deathbed, Murph's deathbed?
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure that it was her deathbed. She's dying.
Yeah.
But to me, it was more of the farewell scene.
Yeah.
We're acknowledging that we're here, but I've lived my life, and I appreciate everything you've done for humanity and for us, but it's time for you to go do the same.
Speaking of deathbed scenes, quickly, Michael Caine pulled a bigger prestige than the movie The Prestige, right? And then his entire life working on Plan A.
Beautiful.
Very true. I like the progression of Michael Caine in Christopher Nolan movies. Like he's kind of at least in the last two, like okay, yeah, like f you, Christopher Nolan. You made Michael Caine cry in Dark Knight Rises, and then now you kill him in Interstellar.
And you make him scumbag Steve in the process.
He's a villain. Yeah.
It's like, because I love Michael Caine.
Oh yeah.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Jaws 4. Come on.
God. But the problems I had with Murph's deathbed scene is that, I mean, yeah, okay, it's a farewell scene. She's lived her life. It's separate from him. He's done his whole thing. But it's like Coop traverses space and time and helps save humanity, all so he can see his daughter again. That's the big emotional hook of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have admittedly, it's a very touching moment, but then she basically kicks him out.
Yes.
And they go through even this is another minor nitpick, but they go through the effort of transporting an old, frail woman and her entire family to a space station so McConaughey can see
just
her.
the person that saved humanity.
Yeah.
So they're
she's not just
it's not like they just got Betty from the trailer park and like, you just won a trip to the space station.
But it's 2 weeks to transport her and her family to McConaughey. Why not just take McConaughey over there? Like, why have that bit of thing?
Probably going to take 2 weeks to transport McConaughey over there. And not to get too in depth with what may or may not be happening, but you don't know that there's not some like Airbus schedule to take other passengers.
Like I said, it's just a minor nitpick, but I didn't like that it was just like they finally have this emotional scene where they finally reconnect, and then she's like, oh yeah, and this on second viewing I kind of thought was a little more poignant than I'm about to make it, but when she's like, no parent should have to see their kid die, so run along. By the way, here's your entire extended family from the past 30 or 40 years. But it was more poignant because she makes a big point in her big fight with her brother, like years and decades before that in the movie, where she like throws into his face in like a heated moment where she's like, you're gonna let another kid die here, and that was a really well done scene.
I have zero problem with them bringing all of his family to the.
That was a minor nitpick on my part, but
yeah,
I don't see it.
Some of the strangest things.
I don't see it as a nitpick because they're in the process of moving humanity off of Earth. And that's where they send them.
At that point, are they still moving humanity? Because isn't it just still...
yes.
Yeah. They're...
I don't know.
But yeah,
that's
they were
something we need to talk about. I don't think anybody has the answer to exactly what they're doing.
Right. My main concern there was just that the whole movie, the emotional point of the movie, the emotional story being told is between Coop and his daughter, and it's tied around so intricately and everything. And the payoff of that is a brief scene, and it's a very nice scene.
I think you're looking at the wrong scene. I
think so too. The payoff is in the time and space.
Yes. You're talking about Coop reconnects with his daughter when he's in, and I don't even know how to describe it.
The Tesseract.
Yes,
that's the word for it.
That is literally what it is. The Tesseract.
You're right. It is actually, and I couldn't stop thinking of Avengers.
Me neither.
But yes, but when he's in he's reconnecting with her there. And she's getting communication from him through the watch, through the books. That's how they are reconnecting. I mean, you got to think that's the last time that he actually gets to experience his daughter's passion at that point. And it's while he's in the Tesseract. So the payoff scene's not the farewell scene.
Yeah.
And plus you have to keep in mind that she had 12 or 13 years with her dad, but she had like 60 or 70 years with her extended family.
Yeah, the extended family.
So she's closer to her extended family.
That's just a minor thing. That's a minor thing that Coop would rather go find Anne Hathaway than say like, oh, hey, by the way, it's nice meeting you guys. That's just a very minor thing.
Besides, the extended family didn't connect very well with Coop anyway.
The big thing was that the big scene is like him telling her, like against John Lithgow's like insistence, saying like to make promises that he can't keep. He says like, I'm coming back. That's the big point of it. And so his coming back is, granted, yes, it is, the reconnection is through that, which in the Tesseract, by the way, just the way that we see how he interacts with time, just the way that it's hard to explain, but just it was really cool, like the way that he moved the watch and stuff.
Yeah, I love that scene.
I loved
blew
it.
my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, did you guys predict that it would be him at the beginning of the movie, that he was the ghost?
I didn't.
Nope.
I did not even
had an
think
inkling.
ghost. I really? Thought it was natural phenomenon, and that's why I almost the whole coordinates thing. I thought they were going to go with the they, and I was going to be very upset if it were the they. Speaking of they, referring to aliens.
Yeah.
So that's where I almost got lost at the beginning, but I loved how it wrapped.
You guys are going to hate me so much. And I'm so nervous to say this because it's like, I'll just read what I put. It physically pains me to say this because I hold Nolan's work in such a high regard that this next statement could be blasphemous.
And once
Christ Nolan.
Yes. And once I say it out loud, I won't be able to take it back.
Uh-oh.
It'll be on the interwebs forever.
Yes. The ending with the Tesseract and the reveal that Coop was the ghost hinged on the emotional relationship between Coop and Murph. But since the pacing of the movie I felt was shot to hell,
it's such a harsh critique of it.
the build-up was too
Shot to hell, wow.
the build-up was too ineffective. They spent a lot of time on Earth, and suddenly he's in space, and it just seemed disconnected to me. That it just seemed like there should have been a little more there to him. I don't know how else to explain it other than it wasn't effective to me. I didn't have that. I wasn't as into the father-daughter relationship as the movie wanted me to be, if that makes sense.
You wanted a light show and a space fetus.
No. No.
Nice.
No, I did not. I wanted to feel emotionally connected to these characters, and I just couldn't. I loved the video messages scene, and I felt a really strong pull there, but it was like the relationship between them. But
you're the only person I've heard say that.
Really?
I felt
only person.
Yeah, I felt
I've read
Because
like
here's the
job.
problem. Here the better critique, and the critique that I thought you were going to make is that they tried to quantify and science-ify love. That's kind of a stretch and kind of bogus.
yeah, the scene with Anne Hathaway explaining why they should go to her boyfriend's planet and saying like love, and I've heard people say that apparently she had trouble with that scene.
Yeah,
trouble how
that's,
so.
Like
that's
trouble
rough,
finding
and then
emotion.
also that is what helps him find Murph at the end is kind of a stretch. But if you can buy it, they pull off that she is his emotional pull.
I buy that she is his reason for everything that he does. Like that's the emotional. Like I buy that. I just didn't find. I couldn't latch onto it. I couldn't connect to it because it felt like there was a lot going on in the movie.
I'm going to say this, and it's going to sound really harsh, but I think it's accurate. I think you're the problem and not the movie. The way you're experiencing it is
it's not you, it's me.
How exactly am I the problem with the movie? It's not.
Your 7 years of anticipation, perhaps?
No, it's because I anticipated
because you keep saying I couldn't connect with it.
I couldn't because we had this whole detour of Coop and two people I couldn't give two shits about, and Anne Hathaway going onto a planet. When Wes Bentley's character dies, I'm like, okay, cool. They've got more stuff, more air. Yeah, I'm like, because I literally had no idea anything about him. And
I think so far the main legitimate complaint you have is the only one I really agree with is the cannon fodder crew.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Wes Bentley was
I agree
completely
with that fully.
pointless.
and I'm not trying to sway your opinions at all. I'm not trying to. I don't know what I'm trying to do. I'm just stating an opinion.
Right.
I couldn't connect to the story because there was a lot of stuff going on. There was a lot of I'm trying to figure out, okay, what the hell's the deal with the guy from American Beauty? What's his deal? I'm trying to figure out, okay, they're on
the
this
guy
planet.
from Hunger Games. I agree, but you say I like our conversations like this. I like having the disagreements, and to go back to something what Mike said about his currently critiquing the whole reading of reviews and kind of spoiling his experiences. For me, it's the complete opposite. Listening to other people's opinions and critiques kind of strengthens my love for not just that movie but movies in general. To me, that's what film's all about. It's about bringing up discussion, emotional connection, or agreements or disagreements about film.
Right.
So I don't mind your ridiculous complaints about this movie.
I don't know where exactly to go now, but
Home. Just go home.
okay, so let's talk about Matt Damon for a second.
I'm going to be in a minority in this, but I loved the reveal of Matt Damon.
Oh,
I did not.
Yeah,
I had
so
no
did I.
clue that he was in this film.
The only problem that I had with the reveal of Matt Damon was that the fucking guy next to me was like, "Is that Matt Damon?"
Oh.
I'm like, "Dude!" And he said that earlier when the robots were talking. He's like, "Val Kilmer?" I'm like, okay. I'm like sitting there and like he was talking like whispering to his whoever the hell was with him.
Perhaps it would have been better had he said it like in Team America. Matt Damon.
That's what I was going to say. My biggest problem with it was that I couldn't shout that in the theater. That was my biggest problem.
But I mean, it seemed like kind of an easy thing to have him turn on them.
You're right. I agree
yeah.
with you 100%.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I follow Neil deGrasse Tyson on Twitter amongst adult film stars, and he tweeted a pretty. He actually did a whole list of tweets about the movie.
He did,
and one of his tweets was something, and it's not quotation by any means, but travel all the way across the universe, find first time we found a planet in God knows how long. 2 men get into a fist fight.
yeah.
And it really is. Yeah, you're right. So I feel like there could have been a better way for that turn to be made.
Go ahead, Mike.
The reason the Matt Damon thing doesn't work is because it's first of all, Matthew McConaughey never fails in the movie, so everything's going to be fine. Right. The tension is broken there.
Failed,
and then also
heard.
when they set up that there are 3 planets we must go to, they're making it to that third planet.
And that's what I wish that it was just one planet. If they were just going to one planet, found Matt Damon. I love the visuals of the water planet and all that stuff.
Yeah, so that was the wave was great.
It was and in 70mm IMAX. Did you see it at the State Museum?
No, I saw it at the Southside IMAX. It was still beautiful nonetheless,
Right.
but
I saw it at the second viewing. I saw it at the Traders Point IMAX Limax.
I don't even think that's an IMAX. It's like
It's digital
5
IMAX.
feet
It's-
extra of film.
But the State Museum IMAX it's the biggest theater in the state, and it's the only 70mm in the state.
It's also got the most uncomfortable seats of any movie
They
theater.
suck.
You think so?
They were
They're
terrible.
terrible.
I wanted to stand up so bad in the
Yeah.
movie.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know I
hate
had
those
that
seats.
much of a
Hate
problem with it.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I love that. I love the scene where they realize that Michael Caine's been lying to him.
Yes.
And then I love that Matt Damon's like, oh yeah, he's just full of
Mhm.
yeah, this is the whole thing. I love that, and I wish that it could have been like that. Could have been like the conflict of it is like maybe he didn't need to try to kill Matthew McConaughey. That seemed a little, and I don't.
Yeah, why didn't he just say, "Just take me with you"?
Yeah, well, that's another thing. What was he trying to achieve? Because he was starved for human contact, and that drove him to forge data so someone would come. He forged the data to make it look like the place was inhabitable. So he does that, and then I'm like thinking like, okay, is he just trying to get a ride home? But then
I think, and this is complete speculation, but he does forge the data to get human contact again. Human contact arrives, and the chance to complete his mission's there.
Which his mission is to
save
start
humanity,
a colony.
right? Start a colony. So
Plan B.
he, Matthew McConaughey has other intentions now with the only spacecraft to save humanity, and he's going to do whatever he can to complete his original mission. Although a bit extreme. I do have problems with the fist fight. However, I love the scene of Matthew McConaughey reconnecting to the hub. I thought that was brilliantly shot.
Well, after the airlock was
right.
Oh, that
right.
was one of my
It's
favorite
great.
sequences.
It's great.
Oh,
yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson mentioned that as well. He said it's the same thing as 2001,
exactly,
but it's spinning 100 times faster.
Yeah,
yeah. And I wasn't crazy about the whole fist fight thing. That whole Matt Damon's arc, basically his arc throughout the movie, but it's I guess people going crazy in space, deep space, is like it's a trope of space movies.
True.
In 2001, it's a computer, but it's pretty realistic though, and it's almost like a space movie's not complete without it. I mean, Steve Buscemi and Armageddon.
Had a beautiful place.
Yeah, I know it's realistic, and movies don't necessarily have to be realistic. But this movie was hyper realistic. I mean, to the extent of human knowledge that we have, there
theoretically,
was
realistic,
right? Theoretically realistic. Thank you. And so I didn't mind that it was there, but yeah, it was a bit of a pit stop, I guess.
I guess Ren and Stimpy did address space madness in one of their episodes as well. So,
oh god,
entitled Space Madness.
I have a counter to that, Tiny.
Okay,
why didn't Romilly go crazy? Because he was up there for 23 years, just isolated, completely waiting for them to come back. He had he didn't know if they were coming back or not.
Well, not everybody goes
everybody
crazy.
has to go crazy.
Yeah,
but
everybody's different.
Hope.
It's just.
I think the answer to that is hope.
Okay.
True.
There was still hope that they were going to come back. Matt Damon had lost all hope.
Yeah.
To the point of sabotaging a space expedition by falsifying data.
And I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking that, because I have made, in my mind, I've made concessions, trying to explain to myself, why, that, because that bothered me a little bit. It's not a big problem that Romilly didn't go crazy and that Matt Damon went crazy. I'm thinking, well, I don't know if, maybe the time dilation affected him in some way too, but I don't think it did. Did it?
Are you talking about affecting Matt Damon?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe it did.
Okay.
Because that 23 years?
Yeah, because that would add another.
It should have, but he was in cryosleep.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
He has been sleeping for 23 years longer than he already was. Yes.
Okay.
But he even says that he'd only wake up occasionally, and his
Right.
longest stint being awake was 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and at that time, he didn't set it to wake up.
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have a question, and I'm so confused about it in the movie. I don't understand when Romilly's fixing the robot, why that explodes. Well, why would that be set up to explode?
Matt Damon had it set up to sabotage in case anybody gets too close to his plan.
Yeah, because he was looking into the archives, and
Okay.
that's what if they were to get into the archives, they would find out that he falsified the data.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Thank you. For
Which after he died, I was just like, man, I'm so affected by it. They're gonna have so much more Dramamine on the ship.
But I do want to talk a little bit of science. The whole thing hinges on they transfer gravity over time. I don't understand what they did.
Nor
What-
do scientists today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one.
of course.
It's all entirely theoretical, but the way I understand it is that there are theories that time and gravity, and in this movie, it's going to sound stupid, but love are literal forces that can be wielded in other.
I got that.
In other dimensions, and so we see the Tesseract where he literally uses gravity and time as forces of energy to communicate with his daughter back in the day. That's kind of what happens. It's all
right.
it's all
I get
theoretical.
that, but how does that save humanity?
It gives.
Are you talking about how does the equation save humanity?
Yeah.
Because
they don't go into that.
It's kind of a MacGuffin.
Well, it's one of
Okay.
those that the whole plan A hinges on the interpretation of gravity, which, as it stands right now in the scientific community, we still don't really understand.
Right.
But when they go
It's
into
just
the
a
black
theory. I don't
hole,
believe it.
Gravity? Oh yeah, come on. 6,000 years ago, we were poofed into existence.
10,000, excuse me.
But when his co-pilot, I forget the name of the robot.
Tars?
Tars, one of my favorite characters, by the way.
Me too.
But when it goes into the black hole, it's going into a theoretical black hole that, as we understand it, manipulates time, space, and gravity. So it has gained the equations of knowledge needed for them to get from space. Because the whole premise of A is manipulating gravity to get off of the planet.
Yeah.
So it speeds them up faster. Like, I get it. I get everything that happened in the black hole.
Speed is not really, I don't think, relevant. It's manipulation of gravity, so speed is not necessary. Or power.
Nice.
I got to be in 6th grade science.
So they just jump to Edmund's planet then?
They
from Earth?
built, engineered Michael Jordan shoes for the space station.
God. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with the science or following it.
Yeah, and the equation that Matthew McConaughey communicates to his daughter across space and time, that's. I feel
Man,
like
I'm surprised you don't have a problem with it.
me too, really. That's that.
Surprised Matt doesn't have a problem with the title sequence.
It's also. Let me tell you about that. So we see the bookcase, and it's very clear that. Okay.
The Stand, did you see the copy of the
I
Stand?
did. I noticed that on the second
Yeah,
viewing, and
so did
I
I.
squeed.
I did not, but I'm gonna have to go back and see it now.
Yeah, I almost tapped Matt on the shoulder like, "Stand."
I didn't notice it the first time.
Christopher Nolan's going to direct The Stand. That's not going to happen.
Dude.
Don't.
And Matt would be so disappointed in it.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Hack director.
that equation, like the whole thing of communicating across gravity and across time and these other dimensions, that's all theoretical, and I guess there's some math to support that it could be true, but the equation is so beyond any kind of theory. It's so science fiction that they didn't even want to explain it because it would be like an anachronism in the movie because everything else is so grounded in at least some kind of science, but that's just so far out there they didn't really want to go into the specifics.
So it is the MacGuffin that will get them to Edmund's planet.
Yeah.
It's more of a Deus Ex Machina.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a MacGuffin because it comes up in the end of the movie.
Is the space station though trying to get to Edmund's planet?
I think the space
Yes.
station is just. Is it?
I think yes, of course it is. That's the whole.
But how would they know that that's a habitable planet? Because the data is not sent through the wormhole back from Anne Hathaway.
It's because they know it. Huh. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it was like a holding place.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Because
Yeah.
if you go in there, if you see when Matthew McConaughey goes to fly off, there's a bunch of transports that are similar to what they took off in the original mission. So to me, that looks almost like those are their probes. Those are going to be their next stage of finding habitable planets. So I'm not necessarily certain that they are off to Edmund's planet.
I think they are because the last shot is seeing Anne Hathaway with the colon, like starting the colony.
But to me, that was showing that's where Matthew McConaughey was off to.
Right,
That's his
right.
destination. Maybe not the space stations, because Matthew McConaughey doesn't know if Edmund's planet's habitable either.
Right.
He hasn't been there. He hasn't seen the data. All he's got is a thumbs up.
Murph references it when
Does she?
Yeah, she's like go to Brand because
Well, okay.
Yeah. And then where are all the people from Earth going?
See, that's why I think it's a holding station.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it's a holding station.
It's a staging area.
Right.
Yeah.
To go to where?
To wherever they can find. That's what I'm saying. Those ships are the next probes. That's the new stage of the mission, is to continue the search for habitable planets. And
Right.
until they find them, that's where humanity is going to be staying. It reminded me a lot of the Halo arc, actually.
Yeah.
Oh
Nice.
yeah, it did. It kind of reminded me of...
See, here's how I take it. I think that the problem is that we couldn't get, I don't know, let's say there are 3 billion people on Earth in 70 years or whatever it is, right? Guessing. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they couldn't get all of those people to whatever habitable planet they found. So they needed to use this tangible, quantifiable gravity to propel them, to move them through time. I don't know. Again, I don't understand the science, but to get all of the people. That was the problem, is they couldn't before. And so now that equation that gives them opportunity A allows them to get to where they need. And of course they're going to Edmund's planet, because that's why they were searching Edmund's planet in the first place.
Yeah. But they don't know. We don't know. Edmund's planet is the one that they didn't have a signal for anymore.
Right, but Anne Hathaway made it.
Right. But you're talking about after all the events and everything that she got word back to them.
Yes.
I don't know that she did though.
That's the I don't know how she could have, because they can't send data back except maybe you know what
they can.
They can't send like video messages, but I will say that because she could just activate the beacon again that sent them on the mission in the first place.
Okay. And that's the whole thing, is they sent the equation back to Murph, and she said, okay, now we know how to get there. Now we know how to get to one of these planets. Which one is it? Oh, hey, there's a ping from Anne Hathaway.
Yeah, and now you, Dad, need to leave me at my deathbed and go to this woman and bring her back.
Maybe not bring her back. Maybe help her with... Because she's not going to leave all those embryos around. It's past third trimester.
But I didn't think too hard about any of that stuff, because I mean we saw Matthew McConaughey go into a black hole and survive, so I didn't really think too much about the logistics of really anything else in the movie. But
it really reminded me of a scene from Futurama. If anyone, you guys watch the show, or have you seen the show?
I not much of it.
I'm just joking. Forget I even said it. No, but there's a scene where the Titanic 2 is getting sucked into a black hole, and Bender the robot's love for the episode got sucked in there too, and Fry makes a comment, hey, it's okay, Professor, she could have been sucked into another dimension, right? She's not necessarily dead, and the professor goes, not a chance. So, good story, Fekkes, I know.
Nice. So thank you for being on the Obsessed Viewer podcast. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so it's hard to explain because you guys are making really good points, and I maybe I'll like it more when I watch it a third time.
Well, I think, like you're not trying to convince us to hate the movie. I would say that we're trying to convince you to enjoy the movie.
Yeah, and I'm not taking it as a 3-pronged approach to force me to like a movie, but kind of in broad terms, it felt a little. I wanted it to be a unique Christopher Nolan movie, like all of his other movies. I mean, he has a very unique take on Batman. Inception was a very unique heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
This was just like a Christopher Nolan space movie. I mentioned that in my review, and it's like.
But isn't that what you wanted as Christopher Nolan space movie?
I wanted a good space movie. I don't really care if it was Christopher Nolan. I didn't want to be able to pick apart like Christopher Nolan isms though. Like I mentioned this in my review. Like okay, both of these movies okay, this movie is about a guy who's traveling through like other worlds and time and stuff to get back to his kids, and it's like it's a widowed father is trying to get back to his kids, and that's like you can kind of say that about Inception or Interstellar.
See, I disagree with that.
How can you disagree with that statement? It's about a guy trying to get back to his kids.
It's about a guy trying to save humanity.
No, I think it's about a guy trying to get back to his kids.
Okay, I disagree. Let me say why I disagree. I disagree because at the linchpin of the climax, where he has to detach his ship from Anne Hathaway's in order for her to make it to Edmund's planet, he sacrifices himself and puts himself into the black hole.
Mm-hmm.
And in the service of the mission to save humanity, not in the mission for him to get back to his kids. So ultimately, it's about a guy trying to save humanity. He makes the ultimate sacrifice, not to get back to his kids, but to save humanity.
And you got to
I think that was his only option to get back to his kids. I think if he went to
Yeah.
Edmund's planet, there was no getting back.
Yeah, when he was going back to Edmund's planet, there was no chance of getting back to his kids.
You got
Well, yeah, but he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't think he's gonna go through the black hole and see his daughter again.
Right.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
going into a black hole where we have
That's
no
right.
clue what the fuck's going to
But
happen.
the entire movie is him trying to get back to his kids. The big emotional breakdown of him, of him wasting, of them, the engines flooding on the water planet is that he's losing time, that he's lost decades of his life.
Well,
To,
Right.
Because he
kids.
still has, there's still a hope for him to see it. So his main concern is not necessarily getting back to his daughter. He left the planet despite her. I mean, he left to save humanity and to save her.
At that point, he was saying there's a way he could do both. Save humanity and see his kids again.
right.
But at the climax of the movie, there wasn't a way for him to do that.
At that point, he'd already been gone. Like, it's past the time slip. The big, like, oh, I've lost 23 years. Now, I mean, if I get back to the kids, it's like, you know, they're not going to be back to when I left them.
Well, they never would be. Even had they not gone to the time slip, he still made a journey of over 3 years. So regardless, it was going to be another at least 2 before he got back. So she was going to be driving and drinking by the time he got home. So
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, there's this distinct difference between 5 years or 8 years
And he never
23 years.
Before he left, he never said, I'm going to come back before you're an adult. Like, he didn't put it.
Yeah, but
he
he-
said, I'm going to come back. And that's what he was. He didn't put a time frame on it. So I don't think
Yeah,
that's.
and he said, maybe I'll
Might
be
be the same age.
we'll be the same age.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that the very broadest terms of the movie is that it's a widowed father that is very intent on seeing his kids again and going through this.
does he really want to see Tom again? Though?
No, he doesn't want to see.
No, he doesn't. That's just in the broadest terms. That's what it is. Much of
when
the
you break it
scenes-
down to the very bare, I guess you can,
Yeah, and that's my only. And I kind of noticed those little things here and there. And the ending with him stealing a ship felt a little bit on the side
borrowing.
like the way, just in the broadest terms again, the way that it was shown, it was just like it felt like the way that he ended The Dark Knight Rises. It kind of felt like this like sweeping music, and then I don't know how else to explain it. It just felt Nolan-y.
I don't. If you're about to critique it, I hate when people have a problem with happy endings. And,
oh, no,
and
I'm
me and my
not-
brother have gotten to fistfights over that. But there's nothing wrong with a good wrapped up ending or a heartfelt ending. And just because it's a intelligent, deep movie doesn't mean there has to be some obscure ending.
I'm not saying anything about him. Like, it's fine that it's a happy ending. And I'll even commend him for not going the ambiguous route the way that Kubrick did, because I like that it's a contained story and everything, but it kind of leaves off in the sense of like, oh, the story's over, but he's still going to go after Brain. And it kind of felt a little bit like Dark Knight Rises, where like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, like it's like it leaves you off with like, oh, the adventure continues, kind of thing. It's
didn't
very
like that?
broad. It felt too much like Nolan, and I wanted a unique.
Oh.
well,
kind of thing.
and to being a Batman fan, you can't just end the Batman story.
Well, yeah.
So it's hard for me to consider that Nolan when. So I mean, I feel like you've just quoted or talked about 2 movies and through his library. I mean, I don't think
His 2
Memento-
most recent movies.
Two, yes, correct. Most recent, but you're talking about a man that's been making movies every 2 years for the last decade.
Right.
So he's got a lot in his current library. And to just, yes, his 2 most recent, but I don't know necessarily that 2 out of 7, 8 necessarily establishes a Nolanism, I would say.
A trend.
Yeah. I don't know. It just felt familiar. Just the way I can't explain it that well, and it didn't bother me that much in the second viewing either. It was just like kind of like okay, I don't know how else to explain it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
You hated the movie. I get it. No, it's
I didn't
fine.
hate the movie, and like when leaving the theater the first time with Tiny, I couldn't say anything. I was still trying
remember.
to parse my words together, and that entire drive home, like I had like like I had my phone with some earbuds that I listen to podcasts on, and I'm like, I just drove home in complete silence, like trying to like putting together my thoughts on the movie. It took me 2 days to write that review on the website because I was still trying to figure out what it was.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
I did the same thing. I drove home without the radio. I parked in my driveway for probably a good 5 minutes, just kind of thinking. And I loved it. I knew I loved it at that point, but I was still processing the entire, I would say, experience.
Same here.
It's an experience.
Oh yeah.
I knew I liked it. And I did.
Did you though?
I did like it. I didn't love it. I didn't love it. I liked it. I thought that it was a really good movie. And I will say that the score from Hans Zimmer is like one of the. I don't think any particular like piece of music in the movie beats his time track from Inception.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
That played toward the end. I don't think it matched that, but everything else, like if you take that away from Hans Zimmer's library, like this is the best score that I've heard him in a Nolan movie do.
Yeah, it was
wow. I disagree.
Really?
I think it was a ripoff of 2001. I think they hit on the classical notes a little too much. It was a little too derivative.
I noticed that too, but I think the main kind of medley, I'll put it here. That was really good.
I think the soundtracks, I don't think one of them needs to be better than the other. I think they were both just awesome, and they were just different in their own way. And I don't want to pick one over the other. I mean,
I think.
What do you mean? 2001 over this?
No, I mean like Inception or the Dark Knight music versus
gotcha.
Interstellar.
Okay.
Like I think they're just different. I don't think one's really better than the other. That's just me. I mean,
I think it was a really good depiction of like just the space-iness of it.
I liked it. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
But yeah, I did notice those. I definitely noticed those little pings that seem to be callbacks.
It's almost like there's a soundtrack to space, and there's a certain amount of notes that they're allowed to cull from.
I think 2001 is a little bit stronger, just for the mere fact of I love the play of the music with. To me, it was almost like a ballet with everything happening in space, and I feel like the classical
and I don't mean to
was,
compare the two. I mean, 2001 is not score anyway; it's symphony,
right?
And it was boring like a ballet,
right? And,
parts of it. I love that. That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah. Well, and my point is not to compare the two.
Right.
I think it was fine. It was very well done in Interstellar, but it was just derivative. It was. I don't think it was very original.
It wasn't the strongest point of the movie for me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been. I didn't walk out of it and like, oh man, the score.
Oh, by the way, speaking of sound, some of the ADR work was terrible.
I didn't notice any of the ADR work, but I was going to ask you if you guys experienced any of the sound issues that.
Yes,
just the mixing. For me was bad.
I had there was some of the dialogue was lost during my viewing,
yes.
just because it was,
I don't mean ADR performances.
Okay.
I mean the levels.
Okay, yeah.
The levels. Okay, yeah, because I think Matt and I both experienced that. But I think the guy gave an announcement before the movie, and he said that they actually turned the volume up a little extra.
It was the same in the
really
second
was it? Okay,
yeah, and it's been reported like a lot of people have the same problems with it.
Okay,
like it was shaking the walls at my IMAX theater. It overtook some of the dialogue to me. And it took me out of the film experience a tad.
Yeah.
Nolan and I loved some of it. Like in my review, I mentioned that you can feel it in your bones.
I don't have a problem with the shaking of it. It's just it has to be there has to be a balance.
It overtook some dialogue, like the scene where he detaches from the thing. When he's going into the black hole, he says something to Anne Hathaway. I don't know what he said.
I agree. I don't know what he said.
Yeah, black hole.
Yeah. Then he said, all right. No, honestly, I think
did you guys see on Facebook? I said they keep getting older and I stay the same age. and my mom commented on like the line from Dazed and Confused with the and I was like, "Oh, Mom, see Interstellar."
That's great.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Here's one. I think Dazed and Confused is a more important movie than Interstellar.
I think this apple is just as great as this, or is more important than this orange.
Yeah, you're right.
They're vastly, vastly different. I don't think Interstellar is an important movie, except for its depiction of hard science on screen.
Yeah.
And people are saying like, oh, this is 2001 and
No.
this is Kubrick. I'm like, nope.
It's really not.
Nope. Right the hell
It's
out of that.
unfair to compare them as directors. I think. I think of Kubrick that obviously as an auteur. I don't think Christopher Nolan has quite reached. I don't think it's accurate to consider him an auteur at this point. I don't see a running theme of a worldview in Nolan's films. Kubrick, I do. I don't see that in Christopher Nolan's films.
Yeah.
And I love his films, but it's just my opinion. Though.
Yeah, and I will maybe it was my expectations. I will admit that because I put on the website and I'll put it in the show notes. Way back when was it? It was about a year ago when they announced, or it was last March. March 2013. When they announced the release date and announced the movie and stuff, I was like, November. It's not going to be maybe it's not going to be a summer blockbuster. Maybe he'll try to make like an Oscar-worthy kind of like deep thinking kind of movie.
It's not a summer blockbuster though. That you don't put that movie in July.
It's too long. It's too exposition-y.
Yeah,
it's too.
But it's still like an adventure movie.
True. Yeah.
Kind of
Agreed, but it's far. I mean, it's not Transformers.
Right.
So Transformers is 5 hours long anyway, but
it's not a popcorn movie.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And let me say, I gave Matt a ton of friction in this episode, and it's not so much because I disagree with Matt or I have a problem with his opinions, because I know how Matt thinks. It's mainly because I've read so many reviews of this movie, and so many people have brought up similar issues that you have. But the reason why I spoke out so much in this is because those people, not you, have used it to discredit the film. And that's what bothers me. I know that you don't want to say, like, I don't have any faith in Nolan anymore.
Oh, right.
The movie sucked because of this. You never... I know that's not how you would critique this movie.
Right.
So that's why I wanted to put those things out there, because those people suck. And if those people listen to this episode, I want them to hear that, you need to manage your expectations. You need to realize what's opinion and what's an actual flaw of the film.
That article that you linked to me, that the night that we saw it, Tiny, you sent me a message saying like, I'm gonna hate the internet pretty soon. And I was like, okay, it's a review for the movie. I'm not completely in love with the movie. I'm not going to click this link. So I was like, I'm going to hold off until I write my review. And I did. I wrote my review in a complete vacuum. I didn't read any reviews or hear any podcasts or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But that review, man, oh my God, that guy.
Yeah.
He gave the movie like 1.5 stars.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
All right, that's just being a dick for the sake of being a dick.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's being a contrarian, I think.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
Having said that, though, Tiny, earlier when we first brought up way earlier, you said that it inspired you.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted it to inspire me more than it did. I
really?
felt like in the first viewing of it, I wanted to, and maybe this is expectations from the first teaser trailer, because the first teaser trailer is just Matthew McConaughey spouting his stuff, talking about mankind and how we've lost our way and all that stuff. Played over the beautiful music from Hans Zimmer. Which, I was so floored when that music popped up, because I thought that maybe it would be like a mind heist kind of thing. Like in Inception's trailer had music that wasn't in the movie because it was Mind Heist by this guy, Zach Helmsley or something. That wasn't Hans Zimmer. So I thought I really hope this music is in the movie, and it was. But anyway, that first viewing, I didn't get the big sense of mankind exploration and mankind is going into the unknown because that's what we are as a species. We're resilient and all that stuff. I felt like that was really downplayed in the movie. And the second viewing, I kind of picked up on a little more, not necessarily subtleties of it, but I just felt like that was a bit of a theme, but it was a little crowded under all this other stuff and subplots and stuff like that.
I'm glad to hear you say that you finally did recognize it, because it is there. They're trying, and the whole thing for me feels like a critique of our government and how we treat NASA.
Yeah,
these days.
100% agree with you on that. I hate people that are, what are we still doing with NASA?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be voicing your ignorant opinion if it weren't for NASA. But
Yeah.
I love the scene with the teachers with
Yes.
them with the textbook.
Yeah, right.
Great.
And he was like, well, one of the things from the Apollo missions was the MRI, and if we had one around, you would have seen the system in my wife's brain.
Yeah.
that was very good,
yeah.
Matthew McConaughey.
I slipped into it. But yeah, and I love that, and I love the whole idea of them having like saying that the space missions were propaganda and stuff. I just wish that there was more of that in the movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I know people, and it pains me to say, but I know people that think that, and it floors me. It
Tell
absolutely
them
floors
to
me.
listen to this podcast, and if you're listening to this, go yourself. Seriously.
There's just no convincing some people, and no matter what people put out there. And there was a brilliant MythBusters episode where they go and they rebuke some of these claims, and no matter what you say, there's still gonna be people like, well,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
what bit on the moon?
What I found inspirational about the movie is the fact that there weren't aliens, and it was like humankind saved itself, and it did it through a type of science that's so advanced. It's so advanced that we actually can't really comprehend it right now because of how limited our brains are.
Alternate dimensions or
Yeah, right.
higher dimensions.
Right. We wield the power to travel between dimensions. Like it's almost, you could almost make an argument. It's almost like we could wield the power to see God because, in one of these other dimensions we could find God if they exist. You know what I mean? So
Check out the Secular Perspective podcast.
but no, like that's completely theoretical, but it's,
Right.
I just thought it was amazing that through this amazing science, we save ourselves. And I don't know. I thought it was inspirational.
I can dig that.
It legitimately gave me hope for NASA, and it shouldn't because of nothing in the last
Don't
few years.
get your hopes up,
right?
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that there are thinkers out there that still have hope that some of this can happen. And obviously, the reason they're out in space is because governments have messed up so much that it's now a necessity. But I still like to think that since there are people out there imagining that we can do it, that eventually we'll start giving NASA a couple more dollars.
It's almost interesting they went the NASA route because the science advisor on the movie was Kip Thorne. He actually wrote a companion book to go along with the movie that was, I think, released around the same time.
Yeah.
I think,
The same day, maybe even. And I think, was it Kip Thorne? I think he was also a science advisor on the movie Contact. Is that right?
He wrote the book Contact.
I
No,
thought
that
Carl
was-
Sagan wrote.
that was Carl Sagan.
You're right. Carl
Yeah.
Sagan wrote it. But yeah,
I think they subscribe to the same scientific principles.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe Kip Thorne was
Right.
educated by Carl Sagan, maybe. And so in Contact, NASA's not really present. It's actually it's the private, or no wait, NASA.
NASA is present at the beginning, but
Right.
it ends up being a privateer that
Right.
ends up funding the project.
The private billionaire guy
Right.
gets everybody together and they build a whole other ship and stuff.
On the
Right.
other-
So
which how you gonna build that entire thing and nobody notices? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't hate Contact, but I hated that.
I like the movie Contact, but that was a big flaw.
I haven't
Also
seen it.
starring Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, also Matthew McConaughey. So it is interesting that they went with NASA as opposed to a private
Right.
thing because it sort of seems that's kind of how that's where space exploration is headed. Is it's going to be privatized.
That's
As
where
opposed-
it is now. I mean, SpaceX.
I mean, with the exception of
The a couple weeks ago's incident.
yeah,
I was really
So-
sad to see that fail. Because I'm all for the privatizing of space exploration. If our government's not going to fund it, it's
Yeah.
got to be somebody eccentric like that.
I'm for
Yeah.
whatever works.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was super excited about the whole comet landing, the Rosetta mission.
that was
Yeah.
very cool.
That was amazing. Just the mere fact of landing on something that's traveling 100,000 miles through space. It's just I love the precision of it. It's beautiful to me. But
Right.
There's a really cool diagram that showed just all the intricacies of the math involved and how
Right.
they had to. It was mind blowing. Yeah, Mike, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, we're at 90 minutes. Oh, crap.
I can't. That flies by.
It does,
does,
yeah. Every week. That's why we have to skip potpourri so often.
Yeah.
But let's just to kind of wind things down. Let's restate what we thought of the movie. It's not that I didn't hate the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hate the movie. I didn't dislike the movie. I just felt underwhelmed by the potential the potential of the movie. I felt like this could have been Christopher Nolan's chance to make maybe something off the beaten path of what he's been making in terms of like this big adventure thing. And I mean, I understand that there are things to that it couldn't be this really intellectual thing. He couldn't make it 2001 for financial reasons even. But I just felt like this could have been a big point in his career where he created something that I could have connected to more, but instead it just felt kind of it was spectacular, but it wasn't different, if that makes sense at all.
Actually, that's the first thing that you've said so far, and I'm not to say that no, seriously, that's the first thing that has made some sense to me about your critique. It didn't change anything. It was a fantastic movie, but it didn't inspire you, nor did it really create anything different. And I get that critique.
Yeah.
And the thing is, your opinion is of the majority, right? That is kind of what people are saying. You mentioned briefly how it was released in November. We talked about how it's not a summer blockbuster, and so then the opposite, of course, is it Oscar bait? And it's not. I mean,
agreed.
The reviews are that it's not going to be, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it should be.
No, and that's kind of my thing. Is I don't think so either. And to restate, Matt, I'm gonna have to come down between the two of you guys. It is not nearly my favorite of the year, but I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I'm kind of just in agreement with everybody else. It was pretty good.
Okay.
Where do you guys think it ranks with Nolan's filmography?
I have such a love for the Batman series just because being a comic book nerd, right. I thought his take on it was brilliant. So it's hard for me to answer that. Memento, I'm not going to answer that. I can't. I don't like rankings to begin with. No, not the answer.
I'd say it's in his top half for me. I think Inception was maybe a smidge better. The problem is I've only seen it once, and I've seen Interstellar.
I was going to say
I've only seen Interstellar once. But everything else of his I've seen at least 2 or 3 times, maybe even 4 times. And so that's hard to make. It's hard to put. I can't really.
Right.
Same as Fekkes. I can't really do that right now.
Michael?
I'll get back to you.
I mean, Interstellar did what you hoped this movie would do, for me, at least.
Okay.
It was a wow movie, so...
Me too.
And also, I think Dark Knight is above all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. This is 3 or 4. It's been a couple years since I've seen Memento, but I don't know.
I would... Just off the top of my head, and I don't like rankings either, Fekkes, but I mean, Memento, Dark Knight, Inception, probably Interstellar after that.
If you asked me what his weakest one, I'd say Prestige. I didn't love Prestige.
Yeah.
It's Insomnia.
You know what? I have not seen Insomnia, so I should.
Yeah. I think Insomnia and Following are kind of his weaker ones. But, I mean, that's not really a fault of his. He didn't write the script for Insomnia, and he didn't... I mean, Following is his first movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Do you guys want to do a quick round of potpourri?
Not particularly.
Not particularly. Fekkes, you got anything for it?
No.
No? Okay, that's
Hey, I'm the guest. I don't make decisions.
Okay. Yeah. Mike, do you got anything?
Oh, not really.
Oh, okay. I'll just say briefly, I rewatched Her today, and it looks really good on Blu-ray.
Nice.
And it's really, really awesome.
I need to second view that. I watched it for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I liked it, but I maybe perhaps I have the Matt Hurt reaction to it. But
Nice. Yeah. So that about do it then?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
So, do you guys hate me?
no,
No.
Not at all.
Yeah.
If anything, I understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll revisit. I'll buy. Oh, yeah. Forgot that point.
Too late, can't say it.
Really quick, Coop's flight, his flight crash thing. It's it seems like it's just to establish that he worked for NASA and he was an astronaut, and it doesn't really go anywhere. He has dreams about it, and then I mean, there's also that when you watch it a second time, it sticks out kind of in a like really Nolan kind of way where he wakes up after dreaming about the crash, and then like Murph is there, and her first line of the movie is, "I thought you were my ghost." I was like, oh, really?
I almost forgot about the dream sequence on that.
Yeah, because it's not really
it's
that
forgettable.
It is, and it's not really used to for anything. It's exposition that doesn't really have a purpose or a payoff even. There's a reference to it being caused by a gravitational anomaly, but I couldn't connect that to what happened or why it happened or anything that happened later in the movie. It's Coop's introduction to the movie. Sorry, Tiny. It's Coop's introduction to the movie, and I feel like it should have had more payoff rather than establishing that this farmer used to be an astronaut.
Yeah, it went somewhere and it had a payoff, but it was so small that it was like kind of insignificant. I saw it as it was that his wreck or his crash was a huge motivator for him wanting to kind of redeem himself, and I think it played a part in him wanting to actually pilot the mission.
Maybe he was the only one that could properly do it.
Yeah, that's I think what the case was. I didn't get any like him propelling him to do that because I think Michael Caine says like this is the mission that you were training for. I don't know if he means that literally or if this is like in terms of fate and destiny or something.
He was probably meant to be one of the original probing astronauts. Maybe I don't know.
Also, it seemed a little like when rewatching it, it seemed like they kind of laid it on a little bit thick. That Matt Damon wasn't was going to turn because they're talking about like these are the bravest people, like referring to the original mission, saying like these are the bravest men and women in human existence, and then man, he was the most brilliant person ever.
There's no way he would.
There's
turn.
no way that he's going to turn.
They say she said he was the best of us.
The best of us, and they say that like 2 or 3 times through the movie, and I'm like. I didn't really pick up on it the first viewing, but the second viewing I was like, that kind of stuck out to me as telegraphing a little too much. Huh. But yeah,
hindsight, you already saw it.
Yeah,
we just got out of this review and then right back
into it. It was like we were in a black hole and something.
It's a 3-hour movie with.
It is.
So, I mean,
yeah. Wait till we do a commentary
is, and you know what's weird is we recorded this one first, listeners, and it's totally part of our perspective.
Oh, that would be.
Mike, why did you say that?
That should have been our time travel.
I'm just going to leave the pod chat now.
Drop the
you already did.
On that note, we're going to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Just want to say before we go to the pre-recorded outros, this week on the blog, I think I'm going to release this on Thursday. So this week and next week, I'm going to have decade reviews of The Day After Tomorrow. I'm going to eventually post my Halloween Blu-ray review and also a decade review of Night of the Living Dead. Both I'm really embarrassed about my 2004 review for them. Also, Horrible Bosses 2 review should come up. But next week, Thanksgiving weekend, we're going to be at Starbase Indy. We're gonna have a panel on that Sunday about the next summer, the summer movie season, summer movie preview, and we're gonna have a booth there and have a bunch of stuff. So come check it out. It seems like a pretty cool like science fiction, Star Trek centric event here in Indianapolis. Then you can go to starbaseindy.com for that, or just Google Starbase Indy. Yeah. Other than that, that about do it.
That'll do it.
All right.
God. Fekkes, thank you so much for coming in. And
thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
It was good having
Thanks,
you.
guys.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks.
They've evolved to different creatures in my mind for I Am Legend, but that's just my opinion. And I love Will Smith. He's sexy.
Everybody loves Will Smith.
I do too.
According to the tabloids, Jada Pinkett doesn't, but
Oh.
Yeah, didn't they get divorced?
I don't know. The only time I read tabloids is, supermarket. There it is, front page stuff. So
Yeah, me too.
My original tattoo artist, though, he knew Jada Pinkett and Will Smith. He used to work with them in Los Angeles, and he said that you couldn't find two nicer people in the world, and that all the stuff in the tabloids was a bunch of nonsense, which is surprises because that's where I go for my news.
That tattoo artist, Jeff Goldblum.
That's funny. Must ink faster. Must ink faster. I don't know why.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's awesome.
That is beautiful.
Man, I feel like you've been saving that joke, but I know you haven't been.
I haven't.
That's great.
That's impressive. Thank you for downloading or streaming the latest episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. The music you heard at the top of the episode and right now is provided by Loudlike. Their EP, Mistakes We Must Make, features our theme song and a clips of events. You can find that on iTunes, and while you're there, please rate and review them and us, and let us know what you think. Also, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer. Follow us on Twitter at obsessiveviewer, at obsessivetiny, and at I am Mike White. And also check out obsessiveviewer.com for reviews of movies, TV shows, and industry commentary. Also, check out obsessivebooknerd.com for book reviews and commentary on the evolving world of reading. And also Tiny's side project podcast, The Secular Perspective, is a podcast exploring the concepts of faith, religion, and existence from the perspective of secular hosts. You can find that on iTunes, Stitcher, and at thesecularperspective.com. Finally, you can email us at Matt, Tiny, or Mike at obsessiveviewer.com, or email the podcast directly at podcast@obsessiveviewer.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.